Okay, good morning, everyone. We will be learning with Hashem, Tractate Shabbos 78. Perek Shmini is the 8th chapter. Moitzi Yain is the name of the chapter. One who takes wine from one domain to another domain is the theme of the chapter. Wait a second for David. Release of the Rabbi Menashe, right? That's the top.
Yeah.
The opinion of the scholars of Rabbi Menashe's academy is not held by either Tana. It is in this point that they argue Rabbi Shimon Elazar Sovar ever cotton the godel ever godel the cotton binyamin kadat in small limb of an adult and a large limb of a day-old infant are alike. Both require an identical amount of oil to be anointed. He stated that one is liable if he takes out enough oil to anoint either of the two. Whether you're going to anoint a baby or you're going to anoint an adult. Rabbi Menashe Sovar ever cotton the godel ein ever godel the cotton binyam aloi. If one takes enough oil to anoint a small limb of an adult, then yes, he is liable. But if he takes out only enough to anoint a large limb of a day-old infant, he is not liable. Large limb of a day-old infant, he is not liable. According to this interpretation, neither Tana subscribe to the view of the scholars of Rabbi Menashe's academy. Okay. Good morning and welcome. Who do we have? Pinchas and David? Are you there?
Long time no hear from.
Okay, my Yavel. So the Gemara offered two possible interpretations of the Baisa. The Gemara now seeks a final determination as to which interpretation is correct. What was decided regarding this matter? Tashma the Tanya, come learn the answer, for it was explicitly taught in another Baisa. Shemen, if he takes out oil, in order to anoint a small limb of a day-old infant, this Baita states clearly that Rabbi Shimon Elazar concurs with the view expressed by the scholars of Rabbi Menashe Academy. First interpretation offered by the Gemara is the correct one. And the ruling of Rabbi Menashe's academy is that the minimum measurement is enough to anoint a small limb of a day-old infant. A minimum amount of oil is thus the subject of a Tanoic dispute.
What's the matter?
Yeah, so Maim Kedeloshu wants a kilo. Water enough to mix an eye plaster.
Yeah.
The Gemara states a general rule for determining minimum amounts of substances that have more than one use, and question the Mishnah's ruling on its basis. Amar by Mikdi. Now let us see. Kol mita de shchicha v'lo shchicha. Any substance that has two usages, one common and one not common. Azu Rabbanon, bosar de shchicha lekulo. The rabbis followed the common use to determine the minimum, even if this results in a leniency. Shechicha, if one use is common and the other is also common, so the rabbis followed the common use that results in a stringency. Okay, so if we have common and not common, the rabbis followed the common use even if it leads to leniency. But if you have common use and a common use, the rabbis followed the common use that results in a stringency. Abaya demonstrated this rule is illustrated by the rulings in the Mishnah. Yain. For example, with regard to wine, its use for drinking wine is common, while its use for healing is not common. Wine is not healing property, even though that nowadays they say it's good for your.
It got antioxidants.
Right, so it's good. They say red wine a little bit is good for you. I guess it's not common for its healing properties. So also
for putting it on as opposed to drinking.
Right. It says shesiyos or shechicho, drinking it is common.
Right.
Refuasa, healing is not common.
Right.
So also rabbanon basar shesiyos or shechicho lekula. The rabbis followed after its use for drinking, which is common, even though this results in a leniency. Cholov, concerning milk as well. Achilosoi shechicho, refuasoi shechicho. Its consumption is common, comes to milk, while its use for healing is not common. So ozurabon basar achilosa. The rabbis followed after its consumption, which is common. Lekula, even though this result in a leniency. Dvash, the case of honey. Its consumption is common, and its use for healing is also common. So the rabbis followed after its use for healing to fix a minimum, although this results in a stringency. The minimum amount for honey is given by the Mishnah above as enough to apply a sore, which is a very small amount, even less than a revis. It shows us that the rabbis ruled stringently when it comes to honey, because its healing properties are common. Azu, or its healing usage is common. Now, Abai notes, however, that the Mishnah's ruling concerning water does not seem to follow this rule. Ela mai mikidi. But with the
shades again.
bothers you? Sun? Sure. Abai, however, notes that the Mishnah's ruling concerning water does not seem to follow this rule. Elamai mikidi, with regard to water, shesyo sheshichicho, drinking is common. Therefore, solei shechicho, its healing is not common. Using it as an eye plaster. My taima azul rabon bosor for the. What is the reason the rabbis followed after its uncommon usage for healing, which results in a stringency? They should have followed the more common usage of drinking and established the more lenient minimum. Amar Rabbi begalilo shonu. The Mishnah was taught with regard to the inhabitants of the Galil, the Galilee, who consistently use water for healing, since in the Galilee both usages are common. The rabbi fixed the minimum stringently in accordance with the general rule. Rava Omar afilu tema b'sharmakemis. You can even say other places as well, for in truth water is commonly used in healing in all locations. Kede Shmuel. The Amar Shmuel, Kol shakyone masu, all liquids, when mixed into an eye plaster, will cure. Umetalale, but they cover the eye and hinder sight. Levar mimaya, except for water, the masuv lemetalele, which cures no side effect and does not cover the eye. The Mishnah stated, Ushar kol hamashkin berevis, and all other liquids a revis. The Gemara cites a brisa discusses the minimum for blood, a liquid not specifically mentioned in the Mishnah. Tanu rabbanon dam v'chol min mashkin, blood and any other liquids, v'revis, is liable only if he takes out a revis, which is about 3.1, 3.2 ounces. If he takes out blood, he is liable if he takes enough to apply to one eye. For indeed blood is applied to heal a speck protruding from the eye. It's called birkis. Umay ninhu, and what type of blood is this? The blood of a wild hen.
Yes, really easy to get one of those.
Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Eimer dam kedei likchol b'ayin nachas. Blood. If he takes out blood, he is liable if he takes out enough to apply to one eye. Sheken koichalin leyorud. For indeed we apply blood to heal a cataract. Okay? Ma'iniu, and what blood is used for this? Dama de churshetino, the blood of a mole. And v'simonich, and you menamonic for remembering which blood is used for which melody, is the following: gavo legavo, inner for inner, boro levoro, and outer for outer. Which means, look at 22. He says moles are found within human habitats, under buildings and the like.
Yeah.
The other one that makes the pile of dirt, like they go under the ground and they make this.
That's a beaver.
Ah, that's the beaver.
That's in the water.
In the water? No, it's not in the water.
I don't know.
Anyhow, so moles are found within human habitats, are referred to as inner creatures. Alternatively, Kushner is identified with either the domestic hen or the bat.
Yeah.
Look at that.
I'm telling you, Wuhan.
The blood is prescribed.
Right, guys.
The blood is prescribed for use in healing cataracts, which are diseases within the eye. Wild hens, by contrast, are found outside human settlements, and their blood is prescribed for protrusions from the eye. The blood of the inner creature is used for treating the inner melody, while the blood of the outer creature is used for treating the outer melody. Yeah, refuah, melody.
Right, you're not supposed to do refuahs on Shabbos anyway.
Yeah. In what case were these minimum stated? Concerning one who takes out a substance into the public domain on the Shabbos. But concerning one who stores a substance away, kol shu chayav. The law is that he is liable even for a minute amount. Rabbi Shimon in a case where these minimums stated concerning one who stores a substance away. Remember, we learned before that storing something shows that it's important for you. But in a case of one who takes out, he is not liable unless he takes out the revis. The rabbis agree with Rabbi Shimon. They concede with him that what? Concerning one who takes out wastewater into the public domain, that the minimum amount for liability is revis. We're learning Leilu Nishma Saisha Tzadkon is Leah Bas Shlomo. Leah Bas Shlomo Tzvi Menachem Mendel ben Yosef Halevi. Amar Mar b'mei dvarim amurim. In what cases are these minimums stated? B'moitzi, concerning one who takes out a hamatzniya, one who stores substances away, kolshu is liable for a minute amount. Atu matzniya alav moitzu, but the Gemara says, 1 second, storing something away, but is the one who stores away not one who takes out as well? He certainly cannot be liable unless he subsequently takes the stored substances out. How then can the Baisa makes a distinction between one who takes out and one who stores away? Amar Abai Achav Maskinan. Here in the Baisa, what are we dealing with? Besalmid Shomar li Rabba, with a disciple whose master told him, Lechu fani li hamokim lesuda, go and clear the place for me, so there will be space for a meal. The disciple went and cleared out the place for him. If he took out an item that is significant for all, he is liable for taking it out, even if it was not stored away by the master. But if he took out an item that is not significant for all, if his master had stored it away, the disciple is liable for taking it out. But if the master did not store it away, the disciple is not liable. Since the item is not significant, this is the meaning of the distinction that the Baisa draws between one who takes out and one who stores away. Amar, the master said in the Baisa, the sages conceded to Rabbi Shimon concerning one who takes concede. You agree with him?
Right.
The sages concede to Rabbi Shimon concerning one who takes out wastewater into the public domain, that the minimum amount for liability is revis. For what use is wastewater fit? What can you do with it? You need clay with it. Mix it with the clay, or with the concrete, with cement. Tanya, teat, if one takes out clay, he is liable. He is liable if he takes out enough from an opening for a crucible. Now, only a very small quantity of clay is required for this purpose. And if wastewater is considered useful because it can be used to knead clay, one would be liable for taking out enough water to knead this small amount of clay. Why then is a revis of wastewater the minimum amount for liability? Wastewater is not fit for drinking or washing. The Gemara wonders why even revis of such water would be considered a significant amount. What is the crucible?
32.
Enough from an opening. I read 32, but it doesn't seem like discussing what is the crucible.
Used to contain metals that are mellowed down for smelting or refining, into which the bellows is that.
The word crucible.
It's a thing you put in, like.
Is a mold?
Make steel, you ever see
some kind of a mold.
It heats it up, and then the stuff becomes molten, and then you pour it.
It's like almost like a furnace that you.
Right, exactly. You pour the hot metal into the mold.
Right. Okay. So the mold is the crucible.
Right. You can do it with gold and silver also.
So the Gemara says, Loi kashya, had the migbal, had the migbal. This second baisa that sets the smaller minimum for clay refers to clay that was already kneaded. Had the le migbal, while this first baisa, which requires sufficient water or vis to knead a larger amount of clay, obviously refers to a case where the clay has not yet been needed. And this is because a person will not bother to need just enough clay to form an opening for a crucible. Okay, forgot the word kur in Hebrew is kur kivshan is like it's almost like a brick oven that has a lot of heat.
Like a kiln.
Yeah. The Mishnah says, Moitzi Chevel, the Mishnah continues to delineate the minimum amounts for various substances. Okay? Various substances. Kedei Amoitzi Chevel, one who takes out a rope. Kedei Lasos Oizen Lekupa. Enough to make a handle for a basket. Right? You can make a handle for a basket from a rope. Gemi takes out a reed grass. For the purpose, enough to make a hanging loop for a sifter or a sieve, he is liable. Enough to take the measure of child's foot for a shoe with it. Niyar, if he takes out paper, he is liable to, if he takes out enough, to write a tax collector receipt on it. And one who takes out a tax collector receipt on Shabbos is liable. Going into page 78b1. Niyar mochuk. One takes out erased paper. Enough to wrap around the mouth of a small flask of balsam oil. Oil with an iron hide. Kedazet kamia, enough to make an amulet. Kamia. Duchstus kedichto mezuzah klaf. If he takes out a parchment, kedichto ala pashuk tanshavat tefillin, enough to write the smallest passage found in tefillin upon it. Shishmai sol, which is the passage of Shmai sol. If he takes out dioi, ink, enough to write 2 letters, Aleph and Beis, Kchoil. Eye paint, enough to paint 1 eye. Devek, glue, enough to place on the head of a board. Zephyr, go for speech, or sulfur, enough to form a hole. Shaivo, wax, enough to place on the opening of a small hole. Charsis, crushed brick. Enough to make an opening for the crucible of gold refiners.
There you go.
Rabbi Yehuda Omer, pitput, enough to make a tripod. Subin bran, enough to place on the opening of the crucible of gold refiners. Seed lime, enough to smear upon a little of girls. Enough to make the hair on the temples lay flat. Rabbi Nechemia Omer, undipi, enough to smear on the forehead. So all these different types of substances, but you somehow accomplished to do what you wanted with that amount. But let one who takes out rope also be liable. Enough to make a hanging loop for a sifter or a sieve. Why is he only liable if he takes out the larger quantity needed to make a handle for a basket? Given the cholik b'mano, the answer is, since the rope is coarse and it would cut into the wooden utensil being hung from it. People do not make hanging loops out of rope. Only a rope long enough to fashion into a basket handle is considered significant. Tanu Rabbanon, Hutzin, palm fronds. Kede lasois oizen lesal kfifo mitzvahs. It looks like the palm, almost like the leaves of the palms, which is fronds. Enough to make a handle for a basket made of palm bark. Sieve if he takes out palm bast. Acherim oimrim kedelit al pi mashpech cotton is liable only if he takes out enough to place on the mouth of a small funnel, lesanis hayayin, to strain the wine that is poured into it, revav, if he takes out grease. Kedelosuch tachas is spoken ketano, enough to smear the underside of a small wafer before fixing it to the side of an oven to bake. V'chama shi'ura, and what is the wafer's measurement? Kesela v'atzanyo ki gorgeres, but it's written that that the amount is as large as a dried fig. Both this measurement, the size of a sela and the size of a dried fig, are one and the same measurement. Muchin kedaso ketano. Muchin is Muchin, if he takes out cotton, kedelasas kadu v'ketano v'chamashiur, enough. So cotton enough to make a small ball. And what is the ball's measurement? Koi goiz, the size of a nut. Neo kedelichtov kashu muchzin, if he takes out paper, he is liable if he takes out enough to write a tax collector's receipt upon it. Tono kama kashu muchzin, how large is a tax collector's receipt? It is the size of 2 letters written in Greek script, which is larger than common Hebrew lettering. Ureminu, but we can contrast this with the following brisa, which states, one who takes out blank paper. There is enough space on it to write 2 letters, is liable v'im lav, but if not, potu is exempt. You wouldn't be liable for 1 letter. Only 2 letters form a word. Amar Rav Sheshes mai shtei oisios. What does that mean? 2 letters. Shtei oisios kesher muchsin. 2 letters of the type commonly used in a tax collector's receipt. The larger characters. The contradiction is resolved, for both biases are teaching the same law. Rav Omar didan, the 2 of our smaller letters of a sachizo, and it must also have a blank margin to serve as a place to hold the paper. Dainu kashu muchsin, for this is the same size as a piece of paper that has room for the 2 larger characters used in a tax collector's receipt. They challenge Rava from the following bias. If one takes out erased paper, or a paid loan document. If there is on its white space, its margin, enough space to write 2 letters, or if the paper in its entirety is large enough to wrap upon the mouth of a small flask of balsam oil, chayav is liable v'im poto, but if not, he is exempt. Bishlam ale Rav Sheshes, this bias is understandable according to Rav Sheshes, who said, what 2 letters are being referred to in the second bias? So, 2 letters of the type commonly used in a tax collector's receipt. So Shapir, for this third bias, is fine, as it 2 refers to the 2 letters commonly used in a tax collector's receipt. But according to Rava Domar who said that the second brisa requires a paper large enough for 2 of our smaller letters, and a blank margin to serve as a place to hold the paper, dainu kesher muchsin, which is the same size as a tax collector's receipt. This baiso is difficult, for here a place to hold. The document should not be required, as it can be held by the section that has been erased, or the section that was written upon. According to Rava, this baiso should specify a smaller measurement. Kashio, this is indeed a difficulty.
Usually you would want the star to fill up the whole paper so nobody could do anything funny with it, right?
Yeah. Tanu Rabon Lamoitzi Kesher Muchsin. If one takes out a tax collector's receipt, Ad Shelo Yiro Lameches Chayav. If he has not yet shown it to the tax collector, he is liable for taking it out. Once he has shown it to the tax collector, he is exempt, for he no longer has use for the receipt. Rabbi Yehuda however says, even once he has shown it to the tax collector, he is still liable because he still needs this piece of paper. My benayu. What's the difference between them? What is the point of contention between them? Why does Rabbi Yehuda maintain that the receipt is still useful while the Tanna Kama does not? At issue between them is whether he will wish to retain the receipt to show to the tax collector's runners. Rabbi Yehuda holds that he will, while the Tanna Kama maintains that he will not keep it for that purpose. At issue between them is whether he will wish to retain the receipt in a situation where is a chief tax collector and a subordinate tax collector. Rabbi Yehuda maintains that even after the taxpayer has shown to the chief official, he will retain it to show to the subordinate official also. The Tanna Kama holds that he will not. Once he showed it to the chief, he's not going to show it to the subordinate.
Right.
Ravashi Omar, Chad Mechasika Benau. Between them, there is a case when there is a single tax collector. For Rabbi Yehuda holds that the taxpayer will retain the receipt because he needs to show it to a second tax collector at another location. Well, he will produce the receipt and say to him, Chazi Gavro, see that I am a man who pays his taxes.
You know, one time I was paying child support for my kids. Years after I finished paying, all of a sudden I get a letter from the probation department who I was paying in Newark. So I went down there with the receipt, I had to show that it was paid in full. So it shows you have to keep all your records because you never know when something's going to pop up like this. So therefore, I would be liable if I was holding the paper.
But I'm sure the ex would also write a letter that she got paid, no?
Yeah, but I had it. It was easy just.
If you would have contacted her and said, "I don't know, I got this letter."
Yeah, she was. We were finished. I mean,
she would cooperate.
Right, our business was done. So, right, but I had it. So, and I was near there. So.
The rabbis taught in advice if one takes out a loan document on Shabbos, he walks around with a promissory note. If the borrower has not yet paid it, he is liable for taking it out. Mishapro, once the borrower had paid it, Patu is exempt. Even if the borrower has paid it, he is still liable for taking it out. Because he still has need of it. The Gemara will offer several interpretations of Rabbi Yehuda's ruling. My benayu, what is the point of contention between them? At issue between them is whether it is forbidden for a lender to retain a paid-up loan document in his possession. The rabbis at Tanakama hold that it is forbidden for a lender to retain a paid-up document in his possession. He is not liable if he takes it out on the Shabbat, on the Shabbos. Rabbi Uda says you're allowed to. It is permitted to retain a paid-up loan document. The lender is liable if he takes it out. So there is an opinion that says you're not allowed to keep it. You know why?
Because it could be fraud. You could use it for fraud.
You reuse it.
Right.
They say you never paid me.
Right.
Actually, Abai said, and everyone agrees that it is forbidden to retain a paid-up loan document.
Here you go.
And here, we are dealing with a case where the borrower admits to having written the loan document, and they argue whether he must verify it further by stating that he has not paid the loan described therein. The Tanakama holds that even if the borrower admits to having written a document, he still must verify it to accord it the status of a collectible document. While Rabbi Yehuda holds that once the borrower admits to having written the document, he need not verify it to accord it that status. And what does the Baita mean when it states if it has not yet been it has not yet paid? Once he has paid, it means until the borrower says I repaid or I did not repay. The Tanakama holds that even if the borrower admits to having written the document, once he states that he repaid the loan, the document is worthless, and the lender is not liable for taking it out, while Rabbi Yehuda holds that the document is still viable, and the lender is liable for taking it out. Buchim Tiyu, and we shall continue tomorrow. Shabbat Shalom to you. If you want to walk tomorrow, we'll be learning here at 6 o'clock.